Hey, I'm Ryan, and this is my brother Daniel, and this is Rolls in the Family. Today we are reviewing Point Salad, a vegetable-themed set collection card game for 2 to 6 players that plays in about 20 minutes.
And to give you our recommendation right up front, if you want a quick and easy-to-teach game that appeals to gamers and non-gamers alike, Point Salad is a great, versatile game to have in your collection. And if you're interested in checking out Point Salad, after this review, we've got a link down below for you to check it out for yourself. But with that being said, let's jump right into the review.
In Point Salad, players are competing by collecting cards to score the most points. Every card is double-sided with a vegetable on one side and a scoring card on the other. On your turn, you can either take 2 vegetables or select one of the 3 available scoring cards. Scoring cards will flip to fill in the missing vegetables, and the game will continue until every card has been claimed. Whoever can create the best combination of vegetables and scoring cards will win the game.
One of the primary tensions in Point Salad is how to balance taking vegetables versus taking scoring cards. Take too many scoring cards and you won't have enough vegetables to actually score them, but take too many vegetables and you may not have enough scoring potential.
Additionally, many of the scoring cards come with negative side effects. For example, you may now score points for peppers and cabbage, but actually lose points for each of your tomatoes. As the game progresses, each player has their own customized preferences that affect how they evaluate the available options.
And since all of the cards you gain are visible to all players, part of the strategy comes in understanding what other players are going for and reacting to it. The player right before you gets negative points for onions. Maybe it's time to pick up some onion scoring cards since they are likely to be left behind for you to take.
Another interesting wrinkle is that once per turn, a scoring card can be flipped, turning into its corresponding vegetable. This means that you can pivot later if a scoring card isn't working out, or potentially take a scoring card to acquire an important vegetable that isn't available in the market.
You also don't want to let a perfect scoring card go to the next player, but fortunately, blocking them doesn't mean you have to take the scoring card yourself. Rather, since the scoring card will flip into a vegetable if one of the 2 vegetables below it are taken, you only need to take a single vegetable from that column to strategically keep your opponent in check.
There are a lot of games that claim a player count range like 2 to 6 players, but many in reality only play well at a small subset of that range. Point Salad is a game that truly lives up to its advertised player counts, working great from 2 to 6 players, and that flexibility keeps it as a strong option in a lot of different gaming situations.
The vegetable theme is fun and cute, but functionally could have been anything as the set collection gameplay is more abstract. There are plenty of interesting decisions and opportunities to strategically react to other players in Point Salad, but the randomness of the cards still swings this more to the lucky side. Sometimes the perfect scoring card will be revealed right at the beginning of a player's turn, and there's nothing anyone else could have done to prevent it.
On first glance, Point Salad doesn't feel particularly interactive as you build up your own card tableau, but you quickly realize the importance in preventing amazing cards from going to the next player, while also building your strategy to account for which vegetables the players before you are less likely to take. It is pretty quick to set up and play, but you are required to remove a certain amount of every vegetable depending on the player count. Not a huge thing, but usually requires you to check the rulebook to remember the right amount, and then try to find, for example, 9 copies of each of the 6 vegetables. And that keeps you from getting going as quickly as some card games where you just deal and play.
Point Salad is an extremely easy game to teach. The basic set collection mechanisms are something people naturally understand, and there are only 2 main options on any given turn. Even though all of the scoring cards are technically unique, they are largely repeats of the same concepts, and you can just explain any new ones as they come up during the game. Every game, the deck is shuffled, and the initial display of scoring cards and vegetables will be different. While this adds some nice variability, it also doesn't feel as meaningfully different as you might think. You may get different scoring cards this game, but overall, it's going to feel pretty similar to previous games. The fun comes from making tactical decisions to improve your score rather than the variability making the session feel unique.
The gameplay in Point Salad really revolves around the core decision of taking vegetable or scoring cards on your turn, and that is a decision that remains fresh and interesting simply because of all the variables in play. Your own cards, your opponent's cards, and the cards available in the market all combine into a unique puzzle of what the best option is situationally.
Every game collection needs games that you can pull out with a casual group and not get bogged down with a long rules teach. Point Salad fills this niche perfectly. It is very approachable for new players, and it isn't uncommon for a group to play multiple games in a row since it is so quick.
For a casual card game, Point Salad also finds a nice balance between being non-confrontational while still being interactive. You care enough about what other players are doing that there's a nice energy around the table and often facilitates casual conversation while you play.
Since the options on your turn are so simple, Point Salad is actually a game that can work well with very young children. They may not do particularly well or understand the strategy, but they can still pick cards and have a good time. We've enjoyed playing it with our 5-year-old nephew, even if he's usually just determined to become the king of the cabbage.
Since the game only ends once every card is taken, this means that the final players are going to be forced to take the only vegetables that are left in the market. So you might lose 4 points for every pepper and be forced to take 1 or 2 on your final turn, which definitely doesn't feel great. That said, it adds a little bit of push your luck with negative scoring cards and can be funny when it happens, so it may depend on the player how much it bothers them.
While every game is going to play out differently with the scoring cards and vegetables you collect, the overall feel of the game is pretty consistent. It's really going to come down to how compelling you find those core decisions, but if you tire of those mechanisms, there aren't really other variables that are going to excite you to come back. And now, let's get to our final ratings for Point Salad.
So Point Salad's a game that I picked up specifically because I felt I needed more games in my collection that kind of played over a range of 2 to 6, easy to teach, plays quickly. It's just a situation I've seen coming up more and more just in the season of life I'm in right now. And it's fit that perfectly. It really has. And I've gotten to play it quite a bit. I actually was looking... I've only had it for 2 years and I've played it 29 times in those 2 years, which I think is strong evidence of how well it's fit that niche, and I keep reaching for it.
Yeah.
For me personally, I'm going to be giving it a 7.5 out of 10. And, you know, it is a game that is in my collection largely because of the niche it fills. Like, if it was just up to me, like there's other games in that kind of time frame or whatever that I would maybe reach for first. Mm-hmm. But obviously I keep picking it, right? It keeps getting to the table, and that may be because, I'm playing with our nephew and, or younger kids that, this works great and I can have a good time. But I've also been shocked I've pulled it out with my like more gaming group, like as an end of the evening type of thing. And that's worked great. Yeah. Like that demographic, there's enough there that they enjoy it and enough there that I've continued to enjoy it after that many plays. So yeah, it's, as far as like putting a rating on it, it's maybe not going to be my top choice in that demographic, but man, does it just work in so many situations. And having a game that I still enjoy this much, but can get to the table so often, it's just been really good for that niche. And I know I've played it a lot more than you have. I think all your games have been with me.
I've only played it 7 times, so my opinion here is basically worthless now.
Yeah, basically ignore everything.
Just listen to Ryan. No, I totally agree with you. And it's those games that can bring, kids and gamers together all in a game and be fun for both. That's just a really impressive thing in my opinion, where, the rules in Point Salad are so simple. Just pick a vegetable or take a scoring card. You can teach it, and we mentioned that earlier. You can teach it so fast, and yet while what you do in your turn is so simple, the actual decision of vegetable versus scoring card, and the kind of how many vegetables are in the deck, and you can look around and see what other players are taking and all of that. It's a really interesting decision every single time that I think does make it really fun for gamers. I personally, that decision, it kind of almost, reminds me a little bit of why I liked Fantasy Realms, a game we've reviewed earlier. Is I love just this maximizing points through just like, okay, which one of these cards will help me maximize the amount of points. And again, simple rules, simple decisions, and yet sometimes the actual strategy in it is really, really fun. I know I personally also really enjoy the group element to it because, we've talked about this where on first glance it kind of looks like it's kind of you're just building up your own thing. It might, on first glance seem like it's kind of very solitaire type game, but it's, I think, far from that. You're as you're playing, you're looking around the table, and I mean, you have to be paying attention to what other people are taking because, if you got our nephew right in front of you and he's just taking cabbage every single time, you are not going to want to go for the cabbage. And so it's almost kind of, part of the strategy is looking and seeing what's the weak spot or what's the part of the vegetable market that, people are ignoring and that you can, sneak into and snag or maybe you start going one direction, but then you see the people in front of you are also taking those vegetables and you got to pivot. It's in such a simple game. I really appreciate those kind of just interesting decisions it gives you. And I think, I think that's, what were we going to say?
Well, I was going to say what you were describing there of like how you start to see how like, oh, I actually do look at what other people are doing. It isn't just necessarily what I'm doing. I think that actually is part of why it works so well across a broad range of like, people who want to play a card game and not really think much. They don't really have to pay attention to what other people. I mean, you can play it and just kind of take your own cards and have fun doing that. But for someone who wants to kind of strategize more, there's like some stuff there for being able to check what's happening and like paying attention to the person before you and the person after you. And I think that's part of why it's continued to stay interesting for me. So I think that's just a really good trait for this type of game to have is you can play it without that kind of thinking and still have a lot of fun, but you can if you want to.
Yeah, so with all of that, I'm going to be giving Point Salad an 8 out of 10. Again, only played it 7 times, so we were discussing that maybe the if this like lower rating you have, it might be because there isn't like a ton of difference in the experience when you play it a ton of times. Kind of a game of Point Salad overall is going to feel generally the same, even though that you've got kind of different decisions depending on what scoring cards and whatnot. But the times I've played it, it's just been a great simple game that it connects across a wide range of people. I know another thing that I really liked about it was I don't like in games when obviously there's this group element where blocking someone means you have to just personally take one for the team. Someone's just dominating carrots and it's like, okay, well, I got to waste my turn to block them because otherwise they're going to win the game. But I really like in Point Salad that blocking it's different because, let's say you want to block a scoring card. All you have to do is take vegetables from the column below that scoring card. So it's not this, well, I'm doing nothing on my turn, but you still can be doing things to advance your score while also, taking options.
Yeah, it's like almost a side effect of what you're doing. It's like, oh, if I do it in this way, a side effect is that I also, make sure that scoring card gets flipped. And I totally agree. It's again, another one of those kind of interesting decision points of, because sometimes a scoring card's amazing for the next person. Like the next person's got 10 onions and you're like, well, this gives them 4 points for every onion. Like I cannot under any condition let them get this. But there's other times where it's like, that scoring card's pretty good for them. Like good enough that I know they're going to take it if it's there. And you have to kind of decide how much am I willing to like bring down the efficiency of my own turn to get that side effect of clearing that scoring card. Yeah, and it's just interesting. And we talked about it a little bit. It really is the combination of what your opponents have, what you have, and what's in the market just kind of like all combines into this nice decision every turn. And I think, that really is what both of us are saying is kind of our main draw of the game is. Just that decision remains interesting.
For sure. You know, honestly, there's not that many people that I would think wouldn't like this game, you know, especially as we've experienced it. It appeals to just a wide range of gamers, non-gamers alike. Like, the only thing I can think of is, you know, first of all, maybe you really like just solitaire games and you don't like the idea of someone in front of you looking at what you have and then taking what you want or blocking you.
Yeah.
You know, that's a little thing. And then, you know, my maybe only slight gripe with the game is sometimes I just don't like how it ends, in the sense of, you know, we mentioned in the cons, those kind of, some of the scoring cards have negatives.
You get stuck with the vegetable.
Yeah, and so sometimes it's just like, oh, wow, I guess I have to take these 2 peppers that give me negative, you know, 6 points or something like that.
Yeah, and it is funny, like, I've had situations where that happens, and it can be kind of funny as it winds down, because everybody, like, sees it coming, because you're, like, watching it dwindle, and it's like, okay, who's gonna be the one that gets that last turn? And then you're, like, looking, what are they gonna... You know, and sometimes it works out the other way, that it's exactly what that player wants, because oftentimes those are the things other people don't want. But it certainly also happens that someone gets stuck with which, you know, is funny for everybody
else. It's a pro,
else.
as long as it's not you, you know?
Yeah. The majority of the people have fun at the table.
Objective pro. There you go. Yeah. Well, those are our thoughts on Point Salad. But the real question is Point Salad the right game for you? If you want a little more meat, pun intended, out of your filler games, or get frustrated when players block you from getting good cards, maybe Point Salad isn't for you.
But if you enjoy easy-to-learn, quick-to-play card games and want one that plays well from 2 to 6 players, and like the idea of a set collection game where your goals change depending on which scoring cards you select, Point Salad is a fantastically versatile filler to have in your collection.
And if you're interested in checking out Point Salad for yourself, we've got a link to it down below. We've also got another video of a card game, a little bit of a step up from Point Salad, a little more strategy on it, Fantasy Realms. You can check out our review for it right here. Otherwise, we've got another video right below, but we will see you guys in our next video.